regular meeting of the Guilford Town Board to order, and I'd like to ask Councilmember Tom Ives to please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Tom. First item of business is the approval of our August, should say 14th, meeting minutes.
I'll move we dispense with the reading.
Okay, a motion has been made to dispense with the reading of the minutes and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's going to carry.
Move to accept them as presented.
Motion has been made to accept the minutes as presented.
Second. Motion
Seconded. Discussion on the minutes? All in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed? That's going to carry. Town employees are required to do sexual harassment training. It's a new requirement that New York State put in place in January. We're going to be doing that tonight. We have several employees here. There are some questions that they have to answer and a signature sheet that they have to sign off on. It is going to be done on video. The first video is about 19 minutes. The second video, I think, is 21 or 22. For town employees, and I guess any members of the public, the town sexual harassment policy can be obtained in writing from the town clerk, or it is on our town website.
Thank you. So if employees don't have two sheets, I can get you whatever you're lacking. You should have two sheets to complete the test and sign that you attended with today's date, and then turn them into me, please.
Okay, we're going to be moving on with our board meeting. At this point in time, we're going to be going to comments from the floor. Somebody has card number 1, please. Okay, once again, from the floor. Anyone wishing to address the town board?
Yeah, my name's Paul Knowles. I see on the agenda tonight you're working on a road use law. I'd ask that you consider a law that protects our investment in our roads from the construction that's probably going to be starting with the wind farm, but consider there's a lot of businesses that make up our town that have heavy trucks. A few of the businesses with heavy trucks in our town is Upstate Companies, 75 to 100 trucks, Fuller Paving, about 5 trucks, Fleming Construction, about 3 trucks. My Business, 5 trucks. Mike Queter, 2 trucks. Empire Construction, 2 trucks. Pope's Gravel, a couple trucks. Whitback Construction, a couple trucks. Houston Trucking, 20 or so trucks. Wilkinson Salvage, a couple trucks. Lang Trucking, 4 trucks. Even some smaller ones. Larry Johnson has 1 dump truck. Mark Johnson has a couple trucks, and then there's some farms, Ives Farm, Hanahan Family Farm, and some towing companies. If you add all those trucks up, it's about 200 trucks in our town, and that 200 trucks equals about 200 employees. And then there's deliveries of everything else that we might need in town, everybody needs. A lot of people complain about trucks on the road, but the trucks pay for a lot of that road too. The licensed tractor trailer is $1,200 for 80,000 pounds without a permit. Is $1,247 every year. 10-wheelers run from $400 to $500 depending on if you have them permitted or not. Plus FET, highway use tax that's paid quarterly, and all that money goes to the repair of the roads, or maybe not all of it, but all of it should. And there's a lot of other local delivery trucks. So anyways, there's about 200 trucks and 200 drivers just in our town. So, just consider that when you're making your road use law that you keep in mind there's a lot of people here that own trucks and employ people that drive trucks, and a lot of these companies I've even talked about live on town roads. In order to get home with their truck, they have to drive on the town roads. So just, if you would consider that there's more truck traffic here than is just gonna be for the wind farm that's being built. Thank you.
We actually have 2 drafts, which the board has had since last month, and we'll be discussing those later. Previously, when we took a look at a road use law, one of our concerns was that it doesn't interfere with or hamper businesses in the town and what I would call normal operations, deliveries, and so forth. Okay, from the floor. Next. Anyone else at this time from the floor wishing to make a comment? Okay, hearing none, and we're going to move on with our agenda for tonight.
Yeah, can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah, I apologize for raising my voice before, but I think this is a very important issue, the High Bridge wind farm. I thought it was interesting when Comos told the people in the Hamptons that the wind farm is good, don't worry about it, it's going to be 30 miles out in the ocean, and you won't see it. Whereas we can't even get 1 mile away from the wind turbines. I'm not against, I support the new Green Deal. I think every town should have a windmill, but I think 25 wind turbines in this small little town is too stressful for us. It could destroy our town. We have 1 out of 4 buildings that are abandoned in this town. It could turn into 50%. One of my best friends' mom is surrounded by 4 or 5 turbines. She's a half a mile to a mile. She wants to retire. She can't sell a house. She can't even get 50% for it. So we could create an industrial park. That's what I fear. I think our town could handle 8 turbines or 12, but 25, I'm afraid, could destroy us. The town's making a big comeback. We're fixing up our houses on Route 8, and I see other people trying to fix up our properties. We're making a comeback. There's eagles living around here now. We're going to ruin this beautiful town. We'll turn into an industrial park, and that's what I'm afraid of. And it's also a form of environmental racism or environmental classism. This town, this board, and I know there's some really good people on this board, but for 10, 20 years, they did nothing to regulate this town. The butternuts is regulated. Calpine is afraid to go into the butternuts. This town is not regulated. There are a couple of families that wanted to frack here, and they worked hard not to have regulation here. So it's a form of environmental classism. It's easy to pick on this little poor town because we have no regulation. So Calpine comes in, it's like a war. They're invading our town. They're bribing everyone, legally and illegally. The Good Neighbor Agreement, let's face it, it's a bribe. And I think this town board, there's 3,000 people in this town, and they're representing the 1%ers, the leaseholders. What about the other 3,000 people? And just please listen to the arguments, have an open mind. There's videos about people on Lake Ontario, how they're being tortured by these windmills 1,000 feet from their house. At least give us 1 mile. You know, it's just, we could destroy this beautiful town. There's people on this board that dedicated their lives to make this town. I know I'm not supposed to mention George Seneck's name, but he did a lot of good for this town. But I hate to see your legacy be ruined by this. Ken Fogarty, he was my buddy. We fought like hell on fracking, and it's a hard decision. I support the solar farms that the town wants to do, but these windmills, it's scary. We could kill this beautiful town. And Calpine picks on these little towns. The doors are open because people on this board fought like hell not to have regulation. And they were pissed off because they couldn't frack here. So they maneuvered around having secret meetings for 3-4 years. How are we going to cash in? How are we going to cash in? These 3-4 families. So it's a war zone. This is how you create a war. This is how you invade a country. And this is what Calpine's doing. This pretty picture of we're all going to get rich quick, like the Beverly Hillbillies. And I don't understand why this board didn't do a survey. That's democracy. We do surveys. We take the census of the town. Or the next election, it should be, we vote for the legalization of marijuana. Who gives a shit about legalization of marijuana? I would like to see on the election this question about a survey. I guess that's all I got to say. The elections are November 4th, so I'm looking forward to the new election.
I'm just going to provide a brief response. The town of Guilford is not the only town in Chenango County. There's only one municipality, which is Oxford, that has any sort of zoning or any regulations countywide. And it's not just something that's been the last 20 years. You know, I've been here a little bit longer than you, and there's been pretty strong opposition that I can recall back to my high school years in the 70s to that. It wasn't something that's just happened more recently, and I believe that there is still opposition to that.
Well, Calpine looks at this little town and says there's no regulation. This is an easy target. We could conquer this town. We could divide and conquer. It's a war effort. And it's sad. We could destroy this beautiful town. We have to admit that. We can't just put blinders on that everything's going to go smoothly. This has never been done before. We're the guinea pigs, the first giant wind farm in America. And Pennsylvania is putting up the same wind farm, and I heard they have 3,300 feet from their turbines.
Anyone else from the floor?
I have a question.
You
If
can answer.
I heard you just say that's not true, then what other towns do have them at
There's,
676?
I've been doing a great deal of research. There's a number of towns in our state right now that are working on wind projects. There's also, there's also a project that's, George is planning to go down to. A number of other people have already gone down. It's down in Pennsylvania, not that far away from here.
And how high are those turbines?
They're gonna be around the same height as these.
The 676 feet?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's also, I was reading about in Texas, where they put these up, these have been up for a while.
We're not in Texas.
I know that, but we
But they're
have to.
targeting poor people.
Excuse me,
Desperate.
sir, but you're being rude, and I think you've said more than enough. What you're trying to say is stir up things in this town.
Well, I think
We
you're
have
not
a
doing
town board
survey
meeting, and,
is-
excuse me,
You're
but
not doing a
this,
survey is violent. You're not doing a survey.
your time to talk is done, okay?
All right.
We have
I'll
rules
leave
in
it.
this town board, and we need to follow them.
Don't argue.
I'm sorry.
Anyone else from the floor? Yes, sir. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, you can go. I'd just like to say, there's one turbine in Texas that's 650 feet tall. None of these other projects that the board is referring to are finished yet. So the bottom line is, there is no data anywhere that says that having turbines this size near your home is safe. None.
Jessica?
I first would like to comment on, I see on the agenda, they have the Noonan subdivision. I would like to ask the board to consider that you guys have regulations. You know, I feel like you need to stick with your regulations. We all know that he has signed a lease. You know, there was a map. Calpine was at JMU School District back in May of 2018 with leaseholders and potential leaseholders. They had a map there of where they want to put the wind turbines. Even though they told the public that there wasn't a map, there was a map. And that was a property where they wanted to put a wind turbine. So I don't know what the motive is as to why they want to put the subdivision, but I don't feel that the board should bend the rules to do a subdivision for, you know, for anyone special, especially for a leaseholder that's currently leasing. Secondly, I feel the town board needs to realize that I've spent a lot of money, done a lot of research, been working countless hours working on this. There has been a divide in this town. You guys need to realize that as a town board, you're not only working for the people that are against this, as I feel that you guys have been bombarded with this, but you all guys also need to realize that you are writing a win law for the leaseholders as well. A lot of leaseholders have already signed a lease, and without knowing, they are at your mercy right now.
It's a genocide treaty.
They're at your mercy right now, depending on you guys to write a protective win law for them too. So they're dependent on you, and you need to write a win law for the town. And that's what we are here trying to explain to you, that it's not just a protective win law for the people that don't want this, it's the protective win law for the leaseholders as well, and for the town. And that's why this is so important to us. And that's why we are trying to explain to you that we want a protective win law for our town in a whole. And as far as the project in Pennsylvania right now, they are given numbers as 1.1 setback. What you need to realize is, yes, there is a 1.1 setback, and that is the main number, that's true. But what they're leaving out for everyone is that 1.1 setback is for participating residents. There is a 5-time setback for non-participating residents. And that's what you guys really need. You've got to dig down deep into all this. So that 1.1 setback is for participating residents. And they're requiring people that are participating to have a wind turbine 1.1 away from their house. And that's what you're protecting the leaseholders for. And that's what I need you guys to understand, that you need to protect everyone in this. The leaseholders, the non-leaseholders, the town, because the leaseholders are going to be at your mercy, because the town is divided right now. So that's something you guys really want to do.
Next.
Well, I would just ask, has anybody gone to Dogville? How has that benefited that town or been bad for the town? Has it helped the town? Has it made it worse? Because Dogville's not, it's about the size of Mount Upton, really. I don't even think they have a blinking yellow light there. We have a blinking yellow light.
I've been to Beltville or Madison and talked with this town council member, farmer up there, and she told me what it's done for finances on the town, for equipment purchases and so forth, and she has been supportive of the wind turbines. She wouldn't mind if they went bigger and had a few more, because it has benefited. She says it has divided the neighbors some, but they've had a lot more opposition from the neighboring town, not from their town as much as Hamilton.
Why would they oppose it?
Because they don't want to look at it. They don't want to see change. And that's the big thing, is they don't want to see change. And if we didn't have change, we wouldn't have all the residents here tonight.
No, I was just wondering, I mean, Beltville's got probably 8, 10 of them up there,
They've got a lot more than that. They've got 2 different ones.
I don't know, I've never.
Yeah, but what's the number? What is the number? You're saying they can buy trucks, but what is the number?
Interrupt, please.
It's paid for a truck or 2. She says they put it into a dedicated capital type purchase fund. So for equipment.
From the floor.
You're willing to desecrate the land here for a couple of stinking trucks? Are you serious? And then when you went up to this other wind facility, I'm not going to call it a farm, nothing agricultural about it, excuse me. You said you didn't hear anything? Was that a big deal?
They did not have an issue with sound. They did not have an issue.
Well, how do you have an issue or not have an issue when you can't hear the sound that is actually destructive to you? Infrasound.
They've dealt with it for 18 years, and they told me that it did not bother health-wise.
So they have 676-foot turbines there,
But
that catapults it into an entirely new category. if you can't compare 300 to 600, nearing 700-foot wind turbines, apples and oranges. Ask any acoustician.
Well, I mentioned at one of the
You're
meetings.
talking to the board, Kathy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mentioned at one of the meetings that I went to Munnsville, I got nasty remarks put on the internet about what I said, which I know who did this, and you can tell your fellow people that I'm real upset over that. But when I went to Munnsville, I spoke to someone, and there are none of these problems there that was you people are saying. You know, you can read all you want to read. My brother is a retired dean of students, college professor. He lives in Madison, Wisconsin. They have them. He says the only thing that you hear is once in a while a whoosh. He says, you know what? You hear that when a car goes by. Get used to it, he says. He says, tell these people to get used to it. And actually, I don't know most of you people's faces. I can virtually say that a lot of you don't live in Guilford. I do. Rita does. You live in Mount Upton. You're not even going to see the damn things.
Be Mount Upton.
Excuse me,
Are you kidding me?
Okay.
I don't know where you live.
Well, I gotta ask, because I don't really want to create a
Not in
debate.
Guilford, they're Mount Upton.
I don't want to create a debate here. Is there anyone else who wants to address the board? We do have some other things to do. We will try to open up to public comment later. It's probably going to run pretty late. We've got a lot of things on the agenda. Is anyone else? Yes.
As it stands right now, our home in Mount Upton will be 2,500 feet from a turbine. And the other thing, which that's Mount Upton. The other thing I wanted to say, I did go see the project in Westfield and was 500 feet from a turbine that they were constructing with the big bus thing on top. And the land is very different there. So we can't compare Westfield to here.
The Westfield, PA.
Westfield, PA. It's very different. It's very mountainous. It was on top of a mountain. There was barely any residences. And a similar situation for the people. They found out it after the construction was started.
Is
With
that Potter County also?
Potter County,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting. Okay. What we'd like to do is continue with the rest of the board meeting. We are going to deviate a little bit from the agenda that was published. Brady and I spoke yesterday, and some materials were sent to the board, a lot of materials. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at all of that, but I've asked Brady here to share some of the information that was in there and where we're potentially going to be at.
Can we have the moment of silence
Oh,
for the
yeah,
dead?
Excuse me, and I apologize for that. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence. It's been 18 years since the attack that was lodged against the World Trade Center. In addition to that, we have lost, within the last 2 weeks, 3 people who have contributed greatly to this town. Earl Callahan, who did live in Guilford and served on the town planning board for a number of years. Jim Browning, who had been an invaluable member of the Bordenhose Fire Department. And Mike Miles, who had served in the department and also served on this board. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, Brady, we had some discussions yesterday, and as I said, I don't know if board members have had an opportunity to take a look at. There was a lot there, some of those pieces, but I'll let you try to fill us in. And
Yep. So, just kind of summarize a little bit of what I had previously explained to some of you. There's a lot going on at the New York State level with wind projects. There's probably at any given level, there's different phases of large-scale wind projects. There's probably, I don't know, a good 15 to 20 at this point that are at different phases of the process. High Bridge being kind of in the middle, maybe a little bit still towards the beginning, but there's now two wind farms that are approved. They have received certificates, which have created a significant amount of precedence as far as I'm concerned with showing us what New York State is thinking as far as what should be permitted and what shouldn't be permitted, what's considered an impact or not a significant impact. And through both of those processes, the agencies that are all involved and looking at it from different angles have all weighed in at various times. And there's a third decision that's going to be made likely tomorrow at the site level. Tomorrow there's a hearing on the Barron Winds case. So I would say the next, if they don't rule right there on the spot, it'll be within a couple weeks after that probably. So we'll have 3 full decisions on projects about as big as they'll get in New York State. So it's creating a lot of precedent. So it's a very fluid situation. A lot of the portions of the law of the local law are modeled in some fashion after standards that were imposed in the Casadega project. But since then, there's been the 8-point wind project that's now been approved, and again, the Barron Winds project. So each project has evolved, I would say, is that the standards have evolved. Each time there's a new one that comes by, they kind of build on the last one. One topic that continues to be a debate is different ways to look at sound. So there's short-term sound analysis and there's long-term sound analysis. One that continually is looked at each project a little bit differently is the short-term average. It's the 8-hour average that's been included. So our law so far has said 45 dBA for an 8-hour average for non-participating residents and resident properties measured on the outside, which translates to a lower, roughly around a 30 or 32 on the inside, which is the standards that have been recognized amongst the agencies as to be an acceptable level on the inside. And then 55, same standard, 55 for participating. Now, since Casadega, there's been 2 projects the 2 projects I just mentioned where this continues to be debated. There's an expert for Department of Public Service who continually says that he believes that a more protective standard of 42 and 52 respectively should be applied. And in the 8-point wind project, instead of having a litigation over this, the developer essentially settled and decided that they would comply with that even though they disagreed with that standard. And in the Barron Winds case that's about to go to a decision, it went the other way. The examiners basically said, no, it's not a reasonable standard. It's not tied to any real backed guidelines out there, the 42, 52, and 8. So they recommended 45 and 55 again. So it's an extremely fluid situation here. So I think in either case, you could go either way here. The established decisions at this point at the siting board level, where the siting board's actually ruled on a case that wasn't settled, still is, I would say as of tonight, is still the 45-55, which was in the law, your local law as of the last meeting. We put in there a possible change to 42 and 52. It's almost entirely up to you guys at this point. I mean, either one of them is a defensible position. Either one of them has support, scientific and legal support to back it, as far as I'm concerned. So it could go either way. We could leave it as is and stick with the current standards that have been imposed, or try to go with the lower standard, which hasn't been decided yet, really.
What's in the draft time?
What you have in front of you is the 45 and 55, but then it's crossed out to say 42 and
Yeah, because I thought that's
52.
what I
So
was the lower.
yeah.
Brady, how does that impact on the timeline? We're working under a constraint that if we don't pass any law within a very short time, then we have no law at all, and the company does whatever it wants.
Well,
so how would this impact if we decide to go to 42? Does it slow down?
No, it's a very, very good question. So the last time The only real time frame is if you were to decide tonight on the version that you want to go to a public hearing with, which is, we've set up a public hearing for the 25th September, that timeline is still okay. You could do that. My only concern would be making sure that the county's response, which has okayed the law, won't change as a result of any change you make tonight.
That's my concern.
That's the concern.
Does it go back to the county?
What I would probably,
We don't know.
I mean, I don't, well, I would see if they think this is a substantial change. I mean, they've literally okayed this law before we even, with the 45 and 55, they've already okayed it.
Right.
So they've okayed it at 45 and 55, they've okayed it at 42 and 52. So I don't think that they're gonna care one bit. It shouldn't make any
Brady,
difference.
the copy that you gave us, it's in our packet, has been crossed out and is 42 and
Yep.
52.
Yeah,
Right.
So
What
that's
page is
It's
it
up
on?
for-
It's on 10.
10.
So that's the way it's currently.
right. And I guess a third option is to wait and see what happens in the Barron Winds case. I mean, I think we're gonna hear about that in the next 2 weeks. I can't tell you conclusively one way or another, at what point does do we cross a line that says, we're, we have a significant risk that they're not gonna impose our law at all. And the fact that the application's been filed, it already says that there's no local law that applies. It recognizes that, that there's a local law under consideration and that they will, as soon as it's adopted, they'll amend their application, essentially. I don't know how they're gonna amend the application, and I can certainly say that the longer you wait, then, the tougher it's gonna be for us to say, you need to impose this on the applicant who's already designed its project, so.
But there is a deadline when they deem it complete.
When they deem it complete, it doesn't necessarily, again, there's been no ruling at the state level as to when there's a line in the sand as far as, this is it. If you don't adopt it before this time, you're out. I think each step that gets, that's a big step. So I think that's a big step that, I think that's gonna be in the middle of October, that if we wait till after that, there's a greater risk that they won't apply it, or that the applicant will ask for a waiver.
They don't have to apply it after that time.
We
I
don't
mean,
know.
it'll bring us into a legal gray area where we can,
And it's a very gray area, because I've contacted DPS and spoke with the attorneys working on this particular project. And they expect some sort of ruling in another case that could impact this. And they did not want to give me an answer as to whether or not there's going to be a timeline or what would happen. They don't know when that ruling is going to come down, possibly within the next few weeks. But once again, at the timeline we're looking at, we're going to be into October.
The only thing I would say is you could just have another special meeting, to try to get out in front of it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've scheduled the special meeting for the 25th.
Yeah.
And we have to decide what we're going to go with in this and whether or not there are any other objections to that to take it to public hearing. There were some other small items.
Yeah, the other one was a recent ad. The last draft, we included all those new provisions about buildings, about WECS buildings.
We grouped everything together.
So, a couple of things. So, let me get to that. That's on... That's section, well, it's page 13 and 14 on the red line version. It's the setbacks from buildings, okay? Section K2. So, the genesis of this section really was a discussion about battery storage buildings and substations. The substations and the proximity of those to non-participating residences. What this ended up being is that the definition of WECS building is broader than that. It covers substations, it covers the operations and maintenance building, it covers a battery storage building, and also drafted it pretty broad, so it says, and other WECS related buildings. So, it's pretty broad. So to say, for example, that an operations and maintenance building that's 100 feet from a participating boundary line shouldn't be there is, I'm struggling to think of why it would matter. Why it would matter when we don't do that for other buildings, and we don't even have a setback for that for turbines. We don't have, that's just relying on the manufacturer's setbacks, so.
Do we have policy on setbacks for houses and so forth through property lines?
We defer
Building
to
code.
state building code,
Which isn't much.
my recollection, I don't know whether it's 25 or 50 feet or something for new construction.
So I would say it's up to you guys again, but if you look at this, if you look at K2, okay, you have a 75-foot setback from all other adjacent property lines. So at the end of the day, even if you change the 150, you always have the 75. So no matter what, none of these buildings are going to be closer than 75 feet to a property line. So, that's always there. That's a line that would protect any property owner, whether they're participant or non-participant. So you could consider. I think the intent might have been for the 150-foot setback from property lines for it to be a non-participating property line. We would keep the sensitive site, but it would just, the potential change here would be 150-foot setback from a non-participating, the property line of a non-participant.
The property should be big enough to take that.
Most of this area.
Leave it just as it is.
Well, I think that the difference is between participating and non-participating.
Right.
That creates a concern.
So we have to decide tonight what we're going to, I shouldn't say we don't have to, but I mean, again,
I do think we need to make some
Yeah,
decisions on this so the
recommend you do.
public knows what's going on and whether or not we're going to actually have the public hearing on the 25th as we've sent legal notice out, or whether or not we would cancel that. There's a couple things, I don't know, with the I'm going to pedal backwards here and take a look at the decibels. Even if we do 45 and 55 is where we had been up until taking a look at that negotiated settlement. The arguments against that are really coming from the Department of Public Service, is my understanding.
The arguments against the 45, 55.
Right.
Department of Public Service is the primary agency that's got it.
And they can still continue to argue that before the siting board.
Right.
And if that's their position, that's a decision the siting board is going to make on that. Department of Health has argued the other way, and some of the documentation you were sent.
52.
No, they were Department of Health was at 45, 55.
It all boils down to the interpretation that different people are taking on the World Health Organization 2018 guidelines. They've interpreted that differently for a variety of reasons. So we don't want to get into the details. I've explained it a little bit before, but there's, people have pointed out there's some shortcomings with that guideline. And it's a matter of calculating. Really, what the WHO says is that it talks about it should be no higher than 30 inside, and then because measuring inside people's houses is a difficult thing to do, you translate it to an outdoor, which is easier to measure, and that's where the difference of opinion essentially comes from, is how do you calculate the change in sound when it goes from an outside to inside. You have to look at like when windows are open, when they're closed, when doors are open, when they're closed, depending on the type of building. So if you were to say it's a reduction of 12, then a 42 outside would apply. If it's a reduction of 15, then it's a 45. So that's...
We had to leave it where we were at 45 and 55?
That's my thought.
Okay. And we'll contact the county, which they did not have any issues with that.
Okay, I'll check with them. And if for some reason they say, we need to...
Sure. Well, we'll go back to the drawing board and I'll let the town board know. As far as the setbacks with the building, all the Wicks buildings, are you going to go to non-participating on that? Because that, I think, was our intent.
and we did not wind up getting that in.
So
there.
just to make sure I get the language right here, because this version is going to be what it is, so I'll just read it. A minimum of 150-foot setback from the property lines of a non-participant parcel with a residence or a sensitive site.
And what we'll do is when we get that copy, I'll get that onto you and, we'll, I'll check with you and,
Well, if, what we could do is, I just would like for Gail to have as of tonight, have the version that we just
Oh,
agreed on, so
sure.
that, it's introduced tonight. Okay. All right, so.
Okay.
And I'll update the board as soon as I hear anything on the Barron Winds case, because that'll add a third case now to the.
and as we have those changes made, the board now has, what do you call it? It has to be,
They've got it on their desks now. You've
Right,
got the
it's on
version,
your
you guys
desk.
have all made this change, right? You all know what the change is. This is the final version, you have it on your desk.
other than that, I would
That
have to
change
do a
isn't in
certified
here.
mailing to you.
Oh, we've just made it, we've all
We just
acknowledged
have
what
to
it
do it
is,
right
so.
now.
Not participating.
And on the setback, we
You
talked
have the
about
word
how that's
for that.
changing to non-participant.
The 150 feet setback.
Yeah. Okay, Gail has the wording on that too.
Okay.
Okay. Questions, board questions? Any questions for Brady? Just for an FYI, we are working, I guess I can publicly state that, on doing a town response to the application.
Yeah, so yeah, go ahead. Yes,
Well, you and Mark Millsap, the environmental engineer, met for about 8 hours yesterday. Had a few questions for me off and on throughout the day, and it's still a work in progress.
it's difficult, it's there for anybody to go look at it. I would expect each of you to go look at it at some point, either here or online. You can look at it online, and if you have trouble looking at it online, let me know. I'll put it on I'll put all the documents separately on a jump drive, a flash drive, so you can plug in your computer and look at it in a folder. I'll just have my office do that for you, so.
Okay, your office will take care of that?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
we're currently out of, I call them thumb drives.
I have one right here I made so that I had one tonight to give to you, but I'll have them make a couple more.
Okay.
Okay, that would be
Yeah, we
great.
gotta just see that.
Yeah. It's really, it's really important to look at because it has a lot of renderings, so you can literally see what we're talking about now. They have, and for the public as well, I mean, there's pictures of what this will look like.
And we have
exactly
two
what
sets
it will-
here. There is a set for the town, and they're not any different. And then there's a set for the public. So-
The only thing that is that the town is
Right.
as a party who has signed a protective agreement, has access to a few of the documents that are considered confidential, which cannot be released. So there's a special, there's a binder that's labeled confidential, that can't be copied, that can't be taken out, and they're not available online.
Right, and is a resident, I believe, through their attorney also has,
Yeah, I'm sure that to the extent the citizens
Right.
groups are a party, they can file protective order.
I think they already have. They have already filed a protective order, so
One
they should
of
have
these
access to
files.
that information. Any questions? I guess, thank you, Brady. I guess
Okay.
we can,
Do you want me to hang around for? You want me-
I don't know. I think we're good. We'll be talking about the road use law. That's not something you worked on.
Not directly, no.
Okay, so if you want to, if you don't mind waiting for a little while,
No, I
I'll
don't
get
mind.
into that because we should have some discussion on that.
Yep.
Okay, and you're probably going to have to just your chair for a few minutes to the highway
Yeah.
superintendent who will come up and give us a report.
We'll do musical chairs again.
Okay.
You can stay out.
Okay, moving down to reports. Supervisor report, I put a copy in your packets there. September is Recovery Awareness Month in Chenango County. Tentatively, there'll be a public hearing on the proposed bags landfill budget Monday, September 16th at 2019 at 4:15 in the Bainbridge Town Hall. We were part of the bags landfill district many years ago. It's been closed for over 20, I would say maybe 30 years. And there is still a budget, there's still monitoring and things that are required. We pay into that every year. It's about $922, I think. And they have to have a public hearing on the proposed budget. That's going to be, once again, Monday, September 16th at 4:15 at the Bainbridge Town Hall. Tomorrow I'm planning to go to Hector, PA in Potter County with Wayne Trefferson to take a look at the big level wind project. I attended services for Earl Callahan, Jim Browning, and Mike Miles within the last week. I was appointed to the Ag and Farmland Protection Board at the county. I'm in the process of repairing the broken window at the Mount Upton Park bathroom. I'll try to get that done before the weekend. I'm continuing work on the 2020 budget. Thus far, things look pretty good. I have the general fund and highway funds done. The lighting districts are done. Water districts essentially are done. We are under the tax cap at this point in time. I've got to go back and check the figures. I'm still waiting for the retirement system estimates. For some reason, I updated my password and stuff, and when I tried getting into the system, I couldn't. I asked Janice if she could get that information for me so we can add that to the budget. I spoke with Guilford Fire Department. They hope to have their, which is a pass-through, budget information to me by Friday, so I can put that in. My obligation is to have that to the town clerk, who will then forward it to the town board by September 30th. I don't know, it would be my assessment, we don't need an extra meeting again, but once you get that, take a look at it, we'll discuss it at our October board meeting, and then perhaps, if necessary, later in October, we'll have an additional budget workshop.
George, when I was looking at the finances last night, I noticed Mount Upton Lighting District had a fairly substantial fund.
And that's been there ever since I've been supervisor.
Is there any way that...
Yeah, we can reduce the tax levy for the Mount Upton, which it may be something we'll do this year, because they've got like $10,000+ extra that has been sitting there for a long period of time. I sort of did not want to do anything with the lighting districts pending the upgrade to the LED lighting. I'll contact NYSEG again and find out what the delay is. I mentioned last month, both Guilford and Rockdale are really running just about breaking even with what we budget. They do have some reserves, and I was kind of not looking to touch either one of those this year. They're saying the LEDs will save us 60%, so eventually there'll be some savings there for taxpayers.
George, if I could say something about the lighting, I've reported a bunch of streetlights out, and they assured me that we were due for upgrade, and I tried to press them to see when. He wouldn't really give me an answer, so.
Okay, I'll get a hold of the person.
We have a new guy in Norwich now, too.
Okay. But it was supposed to happen before the end of the year.
Right.
But I don't see anything going on. Okay, I received the update for the EAP for the Guilford Lake Dam, the emergency action plan. It has been filed. It has been sent into the state. I was a little disappointed. I spoke with Schumacher Engineering, which used to be Voight, that merged. They were going to send that in. I contacted DEC. I hadn't heard anything back from them. They hadn't received it. It's supposed to be sent in, I assume this week, since we got our copy of it. I mentioned last month that the engineering firm thinks we're going to have to do some work on the spillway and wing walls there, that we're probably going to have to expand them. The new flow rates that the state is using are different than the old ones, and that may cost us some money. I have no idea. Just as a reminder to the public, we did this at our last special meeting. We have scheduled a public hearing on a renewable energy systems law for September 25th at 7 p.m. It'll be in the highway garage. Okay, moving down, Town Clerk, Gail.
Okay, next Thursday, Barb and I are going to Cortland to attend a seminar on the retirement system. It's going to be held at Tompkins Cortland Community College, so that'll be a day of training for both of us there. And next Wednesday, we are going to be having Michael Martin, who is our representative for New York State Archives. He had sent an email out that he's paying visits this summer around the area, and if you wanted him to stop in to let him know. So I contacted him and said that we've got a new deputy, and I was looking at retiring eventually here, and so So he's gonna stop in and we're gonna see what pointers we can get from him and see if he has any ideas about our records. And 2 weeks ago, Johnson Control was here, inspected our alarm system. They replaced a couple of batteries, I think it was, and said things looked good.
They are supposed to be getting this, our system's now 10 years old, and earlier they had contacted us about that we're gonna need to, for technology reasons, to update the system. We're waiting for a proposal from them. I told the guy, budget time is coming up, we need to know what's going on with that. And hopefully I'll call them again and say, you know, we're working on the budget, and if we don't have those figures, it's gonna definitely not happen next year.
Everything else is business as usual.
Continuing, financials. Financials were sent out to you for August. I'm just gonna go through some of the highlights and see if people have any questions. We're tracking quite well. Just for an FYI, there will be some budget amendments coming up really for the attorney contractual. And Janice did not, input the budget amendment we did for supervisor contractual last month. So it will be done. There is money there. We have some bills to pay. And with the notation, what we're trying to do is put things related to the hybrid wind project under supervisor's contractual. I think I'm gonna have to go back and do a spreadsheet and break out our legal and consulting fees for other issues that the town has had this year, so the board has a better understanding of what we've been paying lawyers for. On page 5, buildings contractual, comparatively for the last few years, we're up about 14%. Some of that can be when billings come in for electricity and different things, but we're gonna track that. We did increase that budget by $1,500 last year, so we'll watch that as we continue to see whether or not there's gonna be enough money there, or as we look at the 2020 budget, we need to make an adjustment. Generally, in the general fund, expenditures are up 4% over last year. And I'll say most of that's probably related to legal and consulting fees. So we're really pretty much on track with what we typically do at this time of the year. Page 7, highway. Highway budget's really tracking pretty well. I guess we'll see after tonight when the bills are paid, but I think we're in good shape. Our repairs personnel, which is summer payroll, is up about 8% over last year. But we did have an additional summer employee. We're still within the parameters that it's fully funded for the rest of the year. Any questions on the financials?
Move we accept them as presented.
Motion to accept the financials as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion on the financials. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's going to carry. You should have a budget amendment in your packets. And we do have some bills coming in tonight. And hopefully this takes us through the rest of the year. Increase the budget, which is A 1420.4, which is attorney contractual, $15,000. And that money is going to come from the unassigned fund balance. It's the only place where we have money left. Our unassigned fund balance is probably still up about $40,000 from last year, taking out what we will put in the supervisor contractual in August, and if it's approved, what we'll put in attorney contractual this month.
So moved.
Okay, a motion has been made to accept the proposed budget amendment. Second. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, it's going to carry. And I'll try to put together a spreadsheet with some assistance from Gail on the great on spreadsheets, so we can see where the different areas that we have been spending for legal services for this year.
Can
Because
Janice pull some of that out easier for you? Can she
She
just?
might be able to, I can talk to her, yeah.
there was another thing that this is just a side note when you mentioned Janice. Janice talked to me earlier this year about QuickBooks. We don't have the ability to access our financial stuff at the town and look things up. And it's really a feature Gail, I would say probably more Gail than I, thinks would be beneficial. Janice works for both Upton and Town of Guilford, and it would be a shared cost. I've talked with John Lawrence, so we're going to review that. I think it's probably going to be about $1,500 or $1,600. But it would allow us to do some things in-house that we just can't do. And once again, would be a backup to anything that Janice is doing.
Would you be able to do some of it online? Because I know if I bring up finances,
It will be, but we don't have that software here. And I think it's really an expansion of the software license.
Right.
okay, because I can go into accounting, do my accounting, but I can go to the accountant in Cooperstown, and they can log in
Sure.
and review stuff with me.
That's what we're saying. It would give us the ability to do that. We currently do not have that ability.
Would that be through state bid?
What?
Would that 1,500 be through state bid, or what could we get it less? The cost you're talking about for the software?
I don't think software comes under state
That doesn't
bid,
go
or
under
you're not required to bid some of those things.
Okay.
And it would still, at $1,500, would be under our procurement policy.
Mhm.
But that's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, we accept the budget amendment. Did we vote on it?
Yes.
Okay. Moving down on our agenda, Bob, highway.
Okay, we are done with all our road resurfacing. We did Parker Road, Miller Road, Old Route 8 South, Keach Road, Furnace, Goodwin Lane, part of North Pond Road, Case Road, Path Lane, and part of Hoffman Road. We just completed changing 3 driveway pipes and 5 crossover pipes on Maryland Lane and cleaned all the ditches over there. And we started to do ditch work on White's Hill and Shumway Hill. And we changed the crossover pipe on Furnace Hill by Beach Road where we had the flooding problem by Tom Gray's, so hopefully that takes care of that. I met with the county last week and worked out a plan to take care of the water problem on Lake Road. We started hauling some sand on rainy days, and we finished mowing roadsides for the second time. You'll see quite a hefty bill in here tonight for the road resurfacing. Got one more bill to come in for stone, so we're gonna be, I don't know, I think we're still gonna have like 10 or 15,000. They told us not to carry over any money too, so.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do a road project for 10 or 15,000, so I
Right.
don't know. We'll have to get with the highway department and talk about it, I guess, so. If you got any more questions, just call Brady.
Is there gonna be any more pothole repair?
Yes.
I noticed.
I just got a load from Oxford the other day.
Okay, Robinson Road, down over the hill from Rolfs, there's spots in that
Yeah.
road that
Yep.
ought to be sealed up before winter.
Yeah. Bob, just for an FYI, you weren't at the budget session. I've taken out the money that we got for Pavement New York because that program is supposed to end this year.
Right.
If we do get that funding, it would be a recommendation next year to amend the budget and put it back in.
Yeah,
The
it's
same
around
thing,
34,000, I think. So
41,000.
41, yeah.
And the same thing with the recovery money is not in there. So it's gonna look like the amount of spending that's going on roadways dropped, but not knowing what the state funding is gonna do, I don't wanna put that money in there. Okay, moving down, committee reports, highway committee, but you're gonna be meeting with Bob and give him a tough time. Really need to talk about equipment replacement and what that's gonna look like for next year. Building committee.
Okay, Ken and I met on September 6th. First of all, in the town hall, we finally got the worn areas of the carpet back of the justice bench replaced and fixed, and the justice is happy with it, so I'm very thankful for that. They're still having some problems with the highway door in the front, sometimes sticking. For scrap metal, they're going to be collecting that from the back of the highway building, the shale pit up on Gospel Hill, and also from Mountain Park, if we get that taken down. That'll all be sold for scrap. I did talk to Bob about the front door out here, having the summer hire paint the town hall front door. It really needs it, it's
I have
rusty.
paint. I already
You
bought
have
it.
the paint?
I'm gonna
Okay.
donate the paint. I
Is
got
it
the
Rust-Oleum?
Rust-Oleum.
Okay, very good. So
I'll donate
he
it.
just needs to be sanded, primed, and then
It was dollar store, and it was Rust-Oleum, and it's a color we needed, so I think I got
That
4 or 5
works.
cans.
Dollar store, that works, okay, it's good. Mount Upton Water, Paul Heath said that a couple days ago, he got a report from a lady in Mount Upton of Royally Water. He checked, he found no other residents that had any Royally Water. He later called the lady back. She said the water had cleared up. This is an unusual problem for Mount Upton. They don't normally have this, so he's kind of baffled, but so far everything seems to be fine. Otherwise, things are going well with the Mount Upton Water. Also, at the Mount Upton Park, Paul removed the old hydrant by the pavilion that's been asked to be removed, and that's been capped off. George had asked our committee a couple months ago now about looking into metal chairs and chair storage cart, and I did that. But I think now it appears that the interest in that is waned. I talked to Bob, and he didn't really think it was necessary at this point. And I heard some comments from some of the town board members as well. So, you know, my opinion is I think at this point we can just let it be tabled.
And we may make a decision. We're looking at 100, maybe. We'll talk to Bob. We have 20, I think about 20 folding chairs up there.
Yeah, he and I had talked about
That is what we have here.
maybe less.
And I don't know how many you were borrowing from the fire department.
50 usually.
Okay. Well,
So,
okay.
that's something we
All
can
right,
look
thanks,
into in
Billy.
the future. The rest of the stuff I'll wait until later in the agenda.
Okay. Planning committee, Bob is not here. Mount Upton Park. Do you have anything from Mount Upton Park?
I have Mount Upton Park.
Okay, yep.
Okay. Okay, here's the routine insurance inspection, if you want to hand that over to Gail. That goes to Gail. Okay, let's see. The scales will be going up for bid. We will need someone to remove the scales. Any other metal can go up for scrap. And the bleachers also need to be taken down. Paul Heath was made aware of the problems with water that need to be taken care of, and as I mentioned, he already did that. The barbecue blocks had been removed to make the barbecue smaller, and the excess blocks were removed. Bob told me that. Michaela needs to put stones around the benches to make it easier to mow around, and they would like all the benches done, not just the stone ones. Manny needs to purchase a leaf blower. It must be a battery-powered rechargeable type to be kept at the park. Manny has the founder's recognition sign in process, being made at the sign makers. Under new business, the women's restroom window was broken. Plexiglass was broken and there were smaller stones in the floor of the restroom. There wasn't any entry. It looks like one of the wooden benches was used to help break the window, or it was climbed upon to use something else like stones or whatever to break the window. George has been working on that and replacing the window, which thank him for that. That happened the Saturday night before the August meeting. Routine park inspection has been done, and Gail has the insurance form. We do need a replacement safety belt for the baby swing. Manny was not able to find one. I couldn't find one locally either, but Marlene found the tag on the swing set with a phone number, and I called the manufacturer's headquarters, and they put me in contact with a dealer in Kingston. They were able to use photos I sent them to figure out which belt that we needed. So we're now waiting for the belt to come, and hopefully that will be soon so that can be installed. Lourdes wants to use the park for the mammogram bus in September, and my understanding is that the date and time are in the process of being set up, at least on their end. I don't know.
Yeah, they should check to make sure that it's a
Well, that's what I
free
told
day.
them. Did they contact you yet? Okay. I will, because we have a meeting next week, so need to contact. The grounds look very well. They're very happy with the way grounds look up. Events at the park. Tired Iron Tractor Pull was August 24th and 25th. This last Sunday, the car show run by Fame George, September 8th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They had over 92 cars that day, and it was really well attended. I was very pleased. Everybody was very happy with it. Catskill Dirt Slingers Tractor Pull will be September 21st from noon to 11 p.m. And the park's next meeting is September 16th. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pedal backwards. Bob Davis is not here. And just to report to the board, something that came to us from the planning committee. We had a boundary adjustment that was requested by Tim Murray on tax parcel 209.1-1-3, and it's really, they own the both properties, and they wanted to have a boundary line adjustment to make sure that there was a driveway on their second property. According to our subdivision rules, boundary adjustments require review by our planning board. If they agree to it, basically the planning board chair signs off on it and I sign off on it, and they can record it to the county, report it to the county. So I'm just reporting that to the board. I'll give that back to Gail before I lose it. Okay, moving down, old business, Wilkinson Junkyard. We had a public hearing on Wilkinson Junkyard towards the end of August. It's going to be my recommendation that the board take no action on the permit renewal. The attorney said that Mr. Wilkinson will need to complete a short form seeker. We received those forms yesterday, and they will be mailed tomorrow to Mr. Wilkinson, along with some information that I'm very willing, it's a short form, but if he has any questions on how to fill that out, I'll be glad to help him. And that the board at this point in time is taking no action on his permit renewal.
Okay, until we get the form back on.
Right.
How long does he have to fill out the seeker form and get it back?
I don't think there was a time.
There wasn't a
No
time.
I would think there should be a time limit of, at least we have it back within 30 days.
Yeah, 30
Okay.
days.
So
sounds
that
good.
we can take action, whether it's,
Okay.
Otherwise,
yes or
it's just
no.
floating around.
yeah.
I'll contact.
He's still got some ground to cover, even if he fills out the.
Yes, he does. He has some things that,
Yeah.
he's made a lot of progress. The town board's been really working with him, I'm going to say for 2 years. It seems that as we move forward with the most recent public hearing, that a lot of change has occurred. There's still some things that I think he's going to need to do. But the seeker will answer some of those questions for the board, and then we'll have to make a decision. We don't need to table, it's just that we're not going to take any action at this
I
point in
think we
time.
need to at least give him a deadline for the seeker so
Okay.
that we can.
But does the law, can we limit him to how much time he has?
Well, I don't think there's a.
I don't think-
But you could vote tonight and deny it because he didn't submit it. You know what I mean? So I think you just create your own, you say, look, you don't have a complete application. If we wait too long, we're just gonna deny
I'm
it.
going to say,
It's incomplete.
what we're going to do is we're going to request the seeker be completed within 30 days,
Okay, yeah.
prior to
Or do you want to just say to your next regular
board meeting,
board meeting, your October board meeting?
prior to the October board meeting.
Yeah,
I'll entertain a motion,
I would move that prior to the October board meeting, we have
he
that.
completes the seeker.
I second.
Motion made, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, it's going to carry. Okay, moving down. Road use law. This was provided for you last month, if you're asked to take a look at it. There are two versions here.
George, you and I talked
Sure.
about my feelings on this. I do not like some of the wording in, they're not numbered, I don't know which one.
The longer
it is.
one, I'm going to say the one
I
that
think
has
this is a
11
little
pages.
fatter. Yeah,
Well, it tells you at the bottom,
yeah, it's that one, it's the longer one.
and I'll agree, I don't like that one either.
Nope,
Um,
I do not, because it requires permits.
And Terry, we've already had some discussion. The longer version of this, once again, does require a lot of permitting on the part of the town. We simply do not have the personnel to have the applications for the permits come in, the personnel to review the permits, and so forth. The advantage of the other one is that it requires some engineering, which should we have any issues with construction projects, the town is going to have to hire an engineer to come out to do the assessment piece. But it would, we have what can I say?
Baseline.
A baseline for where the roads were and how they have to be repaired, as well as the estimates for costs and stuff through the engineer. And that is my understanding. I talked to Nate about that, who is working on this. Nate Van Wise, our general town attorney who has worked on this, is that would give us a basis if we need to go to court on something. And we would have facts and figures and so forth. As I said, it would be my preference that we work forward with that version. And I'll entertain any of the comments you may have on that tonight.
This is, they keep saying that this is the one that's the longer one that I don't like. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
this one.
Okay.
This one.
The one of 11 pages.
11 is the one we're not doing, right?
Well, that's sort of my suggestion.
Because I think the permitting is going to be cumbersome. And it's just like what Paul was talking about earlier. It's going to cause problems for people that have trucking businesses.
Sure. And it doesn't have the provisions in there for having an engineer certified or develop a baseline for where the roads are at.
Right, so this one is going to be dealing with.
And it does
the larger
require that
projects.
haul routes be established and notification to the town so that we can have an engineer come out and do the inspection and so forth on those things. Other comments on that particular version, which seems to be the direction we're heading in. Now, Brady, it's my understanding, because this is just a law, it doesn't actually physically change anything. We don't have, and I checked with the county, so we don't have to do 239 review on
Yeah,
this.
this one I'm.
But we will
Yes.
have to do a seeker on it. And
Yeah.
basically, the seeker is going to be, it's a local law. You know, we check that box and review that with the town board, but it's a relatively short process. I don't know what your thoughts are on this about moving this to public hearing, whether we may want to look to do that in October, at our October board meeting. It will give us a little bit of opportunity, if we have any questions, to talk to Nate.
Yeah,
You guys see any problems?
I don't see anything problem with October. You know, I did have a comment here. I had underlined a couple things, and it said application fee, and I put down question mark reasonable.
Yeah. What page are you on?
Which
I'm
one?
on page 5.
Okay, you're on a short one, right?
The short one, yeah. And my only comment was that we have a reasonable fee.
Yeah, and it says that we can establish it. That's kind of how our dog law was written, that we can reestablish fees.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, but you don't want to necessarily just lock it in the law, because then you're going to
Right,
change the law.
law, change the judge, right. Bob, and we'll get you a copy of this, okay?
And I know another page, page 3, I'd underlined superintendent or town engineer. And I wondered if, who we had as a town engineer, just somebody that we would
We would
contract.
set up a contract on that, much like our legal services. Are we ready to move this, do you think, to public hearing? Or do you want a little bit more time to take a look at this?
Could we make that decision at the meeting that we have
On
on
the
the 25th? Will we have enough time? We have enough
How many
time.
days do we have? We're the 9th of...
It's early.
It's early, we're very early in October.
Would that give us enough time or no?
We have to get it to the newspaper, and we need 5 days, I believe.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you'd have it. Well, when does the newspaper, when do you have to have notices in the newspaper in order for it?
They don't print it for 2 days after they receive it.
If we're fortunate.
So, okay, so
Yeah, if you throw a weekend in there, it's gonna be,
the next week, basically. So realistically, it won't print till the first week of
The first.
October?
Yeah, that would be enough
You should
time.
be okay. Wait, I'm sorry, when's the meeting?
The
Nine?
Yeah, we'll be the second Wednesday, yeah.
Does it have to be 10 days after the notice?
No, I think it's 5 days for this. And if I'm wrong, we'll find out on the...
We'll let you know.
On the 25th, and we'll have a special meeting if the board chooses to do that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So we're taking no action on that tonight?
Correct.
That'll
Okay.
give you
moving
guys
down.
a chance to look it over a little bit more.
Okay, you were emailed the Cornell Local Road Program final report. We have 8 copies out there.
I have my copy.
I have my copy. I don't know what people bought their copies. Okay. This last summer, we hired a intern through Cornell Rural Roads Program to develop a highway maintenance plan, for a 5-year plan for the town, along with the cost estimates of how much money we will need over the next 5 years to budget for maintaining our roads. It also did an assessment of the roads, and they were all rated on a scale of 1 to 4. And when the roads deteriorate to a certain point, you're really required to rebuild. And we don't really want to get there. I think the challenge for Bob is trying to maintain our roads that are currently in good shape and address the roads that are not in good shape. Year one, which would be next year, and this is going to be a challenge, it would recommend a cost factor of $297,000 plus dollars. We'll receive $183,000 in CHIPS money, so you can see we're not going to be there. The other thing that's a variable is that Pave It New York money and so forth. If we don't do all of that work next year, it's just going to shift down the line. But over a 5-year period, the estimate is that we're going to need $271,000 roughly to continue to maintain our roads in good condition. Just as a comparison for the year one cost to year 5, because by year 5 our roads are in better shape and it's not going to cost as much to continue to maintain them. The year one cost was $297,000. The year 5 cost is $97,000, which we have more than that. So likely what will happen as we move forward with this, we're going to probably have to look to budget some more money to do this. We're probably about $15,000 short, but it depends on what the state does, which is about 1.5% on the tax levy. And I guess we'll move forward with that. Does anybody have questions? Because it assessed all our roads. All the roads are ranked and the conditions given to them. And a challenge for the highway superintendent is to input the information into the computer, Bob, are you listening? Next year as we do work on our roadways. But it's also advantageous as you do this, it'll calculate what it's going to cost you, and it'll help with that 284 plan. Because we have all the dimensions and everything else.
I know I looked at my road and the different portions, I do see different, it doesn't break it down differently.
Yeah.
And I thought it would, some of the one section from Parker Road down to Holrider would be broken out as needing a little more than the other end of the road.
But I think that's something that the highway committee and Bob will work on. I think at times we're going to be doing portions of roads, not the entire road, but it's got to be part of a plan to maintain the overall condition of the roadway. Okay, are there any questions on what you've seen in the Cornell Rural Road Program? And look at Brady there. Do we need Brady for anything else?
I have one thing I wanted
Sure.
to just correct here. I don't want to miss this. So as I've reread that section on the WECS building a couple times, and it's confusing the way, I think a little bit confusing. Now that we're taking the opportunity to fix it, I just want to get it right. So, and really I just want to make sure Gail gets this on the record. And you guys just want to pull that out one more time.
Is that page 13?
That's page 13, K2. Sorry about this. I just want to make, now's the time. So I'm gonna read what I wrote now on this again. So starting on the second line there of 2, it says a minimum 150-foot setback from the property lines of a non-participant parcel with a residence or a parcel with a sensitive site, comma.
Okay, so there's 2 parcels there.
Yeah, so it's parcel with it's setback from the property lines of a non-participant parcel with a residence or a parcel with a sensitive site. I just want to make clear that those are two separate things that are subject to that 150, not, I didn't want it to be read combined. So is everybody okay with that?
Can you say it one more time, please?
Yep. So a minimum 150-foot setback from the property lines of a non-participant parcel with a residence or a parcel with a sensitive site. Just look, see what I did here. So, parcel with that.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
I think that makes more sense.
Any questions for Brady? So watch out for you on the way back.
Thank you.
Hey, moving down under old business, internet, phone, and cable.
Yes.
Gail.
Yep, I've got, you guys want to pass these out? There should be enough for everybody, including Gail.
We'll share.
There should be enough. Thought I didn't? Or they just stuck
It's
together?
stoppage.
Oh, sorry. Alrighty, we went through this at our last committee meeting to double check it. But if you look for the town hall, it's 400 megabytes per second times by 20 internet. And I'm not gonna go through all the prices here. But the total monthly cost, if we go to Spectrum, would be $164.95. Now that includes 3 phone numbers for the business phone, and then we'll have 2 that we'll reserve with Frontier, just because sometimes things happen. I did check, and according to Frontier, we don't have any static IP.
I know, we don't.
Yeah,
You're
I
right.
checked, so we don't have to worry about that extra cost. The highway building, we would go with 100 megabytes since they don't have as many people using it. And as you notice, I put in the extra cost for Spectrum TV, but hopefully after the franchise agreement, they're telling me they believe that we'll get it for free. So I put free and not free in there for the costs. And that would be a total monthly cost for the highway building of $142.45, or if the cable's free, which we're hoping it'll be, it'd be $109.96. Now these are separate, that's the way Spectrum does that.
Gotcha, yeah.
Frontier, the 2 phone lines, I did check with them, they said it would be $94.95, and that would be unlimited long distance.
Good, good.
Now, putting all that together, the town hall for the Frontier and the Spectrum internet and the phones, that would be $259.90 total per month. Now, but before I go on, let me just mention, there is a one-time installation fee, $99, that's one time.
Yeah.
So I didn't include it
That's
with
gonna be a
monthly
wash
costs.
anyway.
Yeah, it's gonna be, yeah, wash. And then if we add all of this together with $142.45 or the $109.96 for the highway building, if you look, I've compared at the bottom in the yellow, highlighting. Spectrum with the 2 Frontier phones retained, internet, phone, and cable for the town hall and the highway building total per month, $402.35. If we have to pay for cable, $369.96 if the cable to the highway building is free after the franchise agreement. If you look at how much we're paying per month for Frontier, and that includes internet and phone, no TV at all, that's $631.96 per month. There's a drastic difference there, I believe. And both Ken and I agreed that it's a very large difference. It's predicted $229.61 per month savings. If we switch to Spectrum, if the cable is free, the savings will be $262.10. So we recommend switching.
And that would impact our building contractual, which the last couple of years we've been really running close to budget.
Right, so that should help.
We've checked with, and we'll do a double check with Spectrum again. There was a concern that because our security for the building, our ADT Johnson Controls, needs a land-based line, that we just have to verify with them that it will work. They said it would work with Time Warner, and I said, well, Time Warner then became Charter, then became Spectrum,
Right.
and it looks like it's going to work. So I would recommend that we move forward with this. The reason I'd like to keep 2 Frontier lines is because if the power goes out, we're going to lose everything that we have.
Or if Spectrum goes down.
Yeah, or Spectrum goes down. Well, the power, Spectrum will go down if they have no
Yeah.
power.
Or if there's, either way.
And we'll at least have the ability to communicate out of the building here. And the other big issue is bandwidth as well as speed.
Yes.
Our internet has been horrific again. I don't know what's going on. I had the same hookup at my house, and I was getting bumped off and on, and I was trying to work this town work, but this morning. And here, when I went to connect for our YouTube video, it took 10 minutes just to connect. And I'm surprised it worked as well as it did tonight, because sometimes when we try doing videos, they get choppy.
Yeah.
Okay, Tilda, we'll move forward.
Is
Yeah.
there a because we're gonna have to keep track of these bills, because Spectrum don't raise the price.
Is there a-
There's a 1 year. Is that your time out?
Yeah,
So there's guarantee.
Yeah.
all right.
Because we're gonna potentially save 2,400 and we'll make an assessment of how it works.
I just said, we're just gonna have to, because otherwise,
Right.
they'll,
And part of their setup fee is coming in and getting everything to work for us.
I
And
tell them to waive the setup fee.
I already talked to them. One said they would, and the other one said they wouldn't. Unfortunately, the one that said they wouldn't is the one that we're now dealing with, so.
we can chat with them on that
Yeah.
a little bit more. And the timeline is important too. We'll take a look at our computer proposal. I really want to have all these changes made if we can by November. Because we're heading into tax season, and if stuff doesn't, it has to work.
I agree, that may be wishful thinking.
And
If we get it
hopefully,
sooner,
looking
this
to
time
have,
of year, so.
along with this new computers, that we have to upgrade the computers, because they won't continue to function in January. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move forward with the changes proposed for internet and phone service.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's gonna carry. Okay, moving on. Noon subdivision. We heard some public comments on it. Bob is not here tonight, Bob Davis. You know, we sent out a map on that to the town board. I'll tell you what I've heard, but I can't verify that, and I really probably gonna ask that we table that. What I had been told is that there were 4 people who purchased the property, and it's gonna go to 2, and that's why they were subdividing or something, so that each person would have a portion of that. I can't verify that. It does not meet our 1-to-4 ratio for frontage, however, it is a large parcel. I don't know anything about whether or not there's a lease on it. I guess I can go to the county and take a look at that, or how that would be impacted if it's subdivided. And I don't know whether you know, and I don't know, are there any, is anybody here, are there any buildings or residences on there?
No, it's a hunting property.
It's a hunting property, and that's it. I'd entertain a motion to table that at this point in time. We need more information. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's gonna carry. Moving down. New business. We have our fuel bids in your packets. Bids were opened yesterday. We did legal notice on that last month. Bob, did you get a chance to look at these?
Yep.
Okay.
You highlighted the right ones, I think. What about with the propane? We have to change the tank again
Okay.
for,
Well, we'll discuss that.
for 7 cents, 6 cents.
Yeah. We had bids from Arapahoe, Reese Marshall, and Suburban. Gail highlighted the low bids on these. Bob, do you have any questions?
Reese Marshall did good last year for us.
Yeah, we're having trouble with our diesel and stuff. Arapahoe kerosene, where do we use kerosene? Is it at the water?
Jeff's water
Plant.
building, yep.
Yep. And the rest of our heating is propane?
Yep.
The issue we have,
Paul did for the propane heater in down at the water building too.
we are currently propane through Reese Marshall. Reese Marshall previously had our propane bid. We've had some issues in the past as we've gone from one propane vendor to another, having no heat and things. The board does not have to accept low bid, but we have to provide an explanation if we do not.
Is there a problem with any of these? Because I think the low bids on all of these look fine to me.
Yeah,
You
but
guys
the
have any problems?
the low bid on propane means it's a tank change, and
Oh, okay.
which,
Do we have to pay for that?
No, we generally, you know, we'll get a credit back for whatever's in the tank, and a new tank comes in. And some of it would be, I think, the timeline and when it gets done.
It's quite a bit lower.
well, it's a nickel.
How much fuel, do you have the estimate of what we use for fuel?
No.
That would be nice if we had QuickBooks to look that up.
Yeah, it's 6.5 cents, 6.7 cents.
We use quite a bit of propane. I don't have the annual update documents.
I mean, if everything goes right, it's all right, but remember the headache we had before. We had no heat, and they
That
wanted
was
to pay
when-
for the regulator, and
Yep.
and that was for a couple cents that time.
So far this year, we've used 9,958 gallons.
So 10,000 gallons times 6.5 cents.
$600, $700.
So it's almost worth the change.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. What does the board want to do now? Accept the low bids?
I move we go with the low bids for each, for diesel, kerosene, and propane.
Marabito, kerosene fixed price, Reese Marshall, diesel fixed price, and propane fixed price with Suburban.
A second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded.
Who motion? Tom?
Terry, and Gail just seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, that's going to carry. Okay.
You know, we've never had Suburban before, so we'll have to make sure that they have the right size tank and stuff, and they'll have to realize that they're going to have to change the tank.
Okay,
Okay. I can follow up with you on that.
yeah.
How much would a tank cost?
We've looked at that.
Okay.
We've already looked at purchasing our own tank, and
It's
it
not so
would,
much the purchase of it, it's the inspection and all that.
And the maintenance of it.
Maintenance.
Yeah, so there is a good thing of not having your own tank.
right.
Yeah.
The sales rep included his card, so it's
Okay.
called sales rep.
Sounds good. Moving on, the 2019-20 sidewalk snow and ice agreement with the county for Hamlin and Guilford. It's in your packet. It hasn't changed. It's the agreement that the town has had with them for years. County would like to get out of it, but
But we don't want
we don't want it. Well, a couple $1,000s for us,
3,000.
3,000.
And they come over and help us do it too, so.
That sounds better.
That's a good deal. It is a good deal.
So I move we go with the agreement.
Okay. Motion to approve the sidewalk snow and ice agreement with the county for the Hamlin and Guilford,
Second.
and
I
authorize
was gonna say authorize you to sign.
me to sign the agreement. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Did you get that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, it's going to carry. Okay, next one was something I had hoped the highway committee would have discussed. I did respond to the county. It's agreement between Chenango County and the town of Guilford for use of space in the highway garage. Basically, the county has asked, can they keep one of their trucks here? And I guess the rationale behind that was that their drivers local will not have to drive into Norwich. They can get here quicker, they can get out on the road sooner and take care of things. County does at times load sand and stuff from us anyway. We've had some concerns with that in the past. I had asked Sean Fry to have somebody come talk to you about it. Has anybody been over here?
Doug mentioned it the other day, that's all he.
But
I
what
mean,
did he say?
it just makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
They come from Norwich. 36 is one of the worst roads in the town.
Down, yeah,
So they're gonna start here and what?
And go backwards.
And go backwards.
yeah.
It-
Well, I don't know what's gonna be 36, it could be 35.
Well, 30, like I told him last year, George, anybody can drive on 35.
If you can't drive on 35.
38 ought to be the one they do first,
Right.
Yeah.
but they don't. That's,
And they don't have Louise here to now radio them that
Right.
they need to get sand on Creamery Hill.
Well,
Right.
as I said, I don't know what their plan is as far as what they're going to plow from here.
and 9 out of 10 times, we do the hill,
Furnace on anyway.
or.
Creamery. Okay,
Because this will be the third year they've sent it to us, right? They haven't made any changes.
yeah.
So,
I,
and if they can't come talk to us and explain the
well,
rationale.
I would entertain a motion to table it till they come over and give us some more detail on
Yeah,
it.
'cause I'd like to be part of that conversation, Bob.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Doug just mentioned it the other day when I was meeting.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the room to have an extra truck
We
just
do,
sitting in there.
we do.
Well,
Are we short on room?
no, well, we discussed that last year. We have to move a truck Or,
over, and then the loader's blocked in.
right,
Yeah.
one or the other, so.
Right.
Because we would wind up having to move a small truck over.
Yeah, or a big one on the other side.
Okay, well, I would move, I don't know. Okay,
And my other, we have a county employee in our garage, you know, it's,
well, I talked to Terry about, I think I mentioned something that concerns about that. Okay, but I'd entertain a motion to table.
so move.
Second?
So motion made, second, further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll get back to the county and say you need to send somebody over when we can set up a meeting with our highway committee.
If they really want it, they can come sell it.
Yeah. And I only know what I get through the grapevine, which is, I'm not gonna trust as reliable information. Okay, moving down. Standard workday resolution, we're gonna table that.
Table until, September 25th.
We are gonna take some action on that. Terry, you need to get us your
My hours?
hours.
ASAP.
ASAP, along with a couple other employees. He left, but Bob Sharkey needs to do that and some other people. Okay, summer program report was in your packets. Carol Hubbard provided that for us. I think the program went pretty well. I don't have much in my packet.
Did you miss it?
One of the concerns as we move forward to next year, I'm gonna call Carol and talk about the hourly rate for lifeguards, is that we potentially only have 2 people returning. I mentioned that at the budget session, that we're gonna budget a little bit more money to pay for training. And once again, we'll take a look at what that salary projected is gonna be. Usually Carol has provided a bit of a raise each year they come back. We're under budget this year, so that should not be a problem. But there's a good number of kids really that participate in the program. And as far as I know, there are really, I didn't hear that there were any issues this year. There were some thank yous in here I'll just share. Once again, thanks to the Guilford taxpayers providing funds for a worthwhile program and employment for area youth. Thank you to Keith and Matt Robinson, Buddy Fisher, and Alyssa People for putting the docks in. Dave Gorman, who's a Guilford resident, works for the county health department, did the pre-inspection and final inspection, and it went well. I'd like to thank the Clee House for use of the Clee House on rainy days, as well as for the arts and crafts program and the breakfast and lunch programs. Thank you to the County Guilford Highway Department for an excellent job removing trash and keeping the beach mowed and grass mowed along the roadway. And thank you to McDonald's and Sydney for providing drink for our swimming party and to all the parents for their part in the program. The Guilford Swim Program would not be possible without the kind gesture of the Stripe family in allowing the town of Guilford to lease the beach area for swimming once again this year, and we're very grateful. And we pay $10 a year for use of the beach.
George, could a copy of this be sent to the Stripe family as thanks?
Sure, I think that would be a great idea.
You know, to recognize the program and then thank them for
We'll do it.
publicly.
Right. George, someday, we've still got to address getting a road in there in case something happens.
Yep. I'll talk to Sam about that. And one of the things that we may have to work around is because the rest of that property now is in a land conservation trust. I believe they sanctioned off 3 acres around the beach area, but I'll have to check on that. Okay, moving down, assessor appointment. We did interviews. I'll thank Gilda for coming in for the interviews. Thank Tom for making the initial contact. I entertain a motion to, it's a 6-year appointment to appoint Matt Lippett, starting October 1st as the assessor for the town of Guilford.
So moved.
I second.
Motion's made and seconded. Discussion. I will mention that office hours for the assessor will be changing, and we'll try to publish those changes and get those out there to the public. Matt Comes with fairly good recommendation. He has done the town of Hartwick for years. He also does Morris and Butternuts, and will be adding the town of Guilford. Any other comments from the board?
I think he's a good choice.
Okay. Hearing no further comments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's going to carry. And I will send a notification into the county tax department on it.
You gotta notify Penny that we've never.
Yes, she knows. I've spoken with Penny.
Okay.
She knows where we're at with this. Matt was in Monday, met with Penny for a couple hours to go over things. I think it went well. He's going to be back in.
He said he would stop in next week, I believe, to get paperwork and so on.
And stuff finished. You know, we talked to him about maintaining the salary. We've talked to the board about that. I talked to him, if necessary, that is the oldest computer we have. He said it still seems to be working fine. He does have experience with that program, of course. It's the same program we're using in Otsego County and the towns he's at. And I said if we need to replace the computer, we'll get on it right away. That computer is probably pushing 10 years old. But he said it still seems to be handling everything it needs to do. The state was making updates to the program. I don't know where they're at with that. They tend to tell you they're doing something and then it gets delayed and it gets delayed again. Okay, last item of new business, in your packets, there is a proposal from Computer Emergency Room, which I sent out to you prior to this. It's for replacing the supervisors, the town clerks, and highway department computers, putting in some new monitors, replacing our server. Computers that we have are 8 going on 9 years old. They will not operate Windows 10. They're all Windows 7 computer. The date I was given was January 14th. Windows 7 is no longer going to be supported. When I thought the computers, we just got them, but it was a long time ago. So we're going to look to replace the computers. Councilmember Ward raised the question about should we put this out to bid. All of the prices, with the exception of the battery storage, which Computer Emergency Room does not think is quality, are on state bid. And part of the quote is that they come in and they set up everything and make sure it's functioning for us. But I'd entertain a motion to approve this quote so that we can move forward and try to get these computers on board if we can by November.
So moved.
Okay, motion's made
I can second.
and seconded. Further discussion?
I see their terms.
Right.
Half down, is that, we're okay with that?
Yeah.
We're just gonna.
Well, I'm gonna talk to them about that because and they know that, we don't pay for things until,
Right.
and whether or not we pay for the equipment as it comes in and then pay for the setup afterwards. But and I'm gonna say for a price not to exceed $7,559.99 as part of your resolution.
Yes.
Resolution.
Did you get that? We had a motion made and seconded. Any other further discussion? I think that was a good point, Tom. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's going to carry. Okay, back to from the floor again. Yes.
When you do when you're talking about the phone upgrade, didn't you say that the security thing needs to be upgraded also?
Yes.
So possibly when you upgrade the security, it will be compatible with Spectrum?
It should be. That was something that when I spoke with the Spectrum representative, she said it should be, but we need to confirm that. We still don't have a quote from, it was ADT or Johnson Controls, on what they're proposing for us. What we have currently, I guess, is working fine. They do come in and do an inspection. We haven't had any issues with it, but they said our equipment's getting dated. And my recollection, we were in the 10,000 plus range when that was put in, the security system, which is for this building only. We have a separate system in the highway garage, which is cameras and a DVR recorder. Anything else from the floor?
Just a little bit of personal experience. Windows 10 does not run half of the programs I've got.
Okay.
Just letting you know that when you go to Windows 10, a lot of this is not going to work.
Everything we have should be compatible with Windows 10 because we have Excel, you have Wilkinson, which is compatible, and that's what we run. pretty much, you don't have any special programs. I know our Cornell Rural Roads program is compatible with 10 that we did this year. We may have to download and upgrade to the software or something. But basically on my computer, it's just we're doing internet, Excel.
Okay, I'm just letting you know what happened to me, so
Okay.
you can,
And the big programs are really the town clerk programs.
yeah.
Anything else from the floor?
I think it's, might be appropriate on the 18th anniversary of 9/11 that I share this with you, and maybe in some manner people can glean or extrapolate the important things that I'm about to share with you folks and apply it to our current situation. 18 years ago, I was at Ground Zero. I witnessed some horrific things. I also witnessed some extraordinary things. Prior to 9/11, New Yorkers, there was a mindless quest for material acquisitions. The money grab, fast-paced, seemed like many things that were important weren't. That changed on 9/11. From that day forward, I saw people come together. I saw them come together and be strong, and the strength was like they never were before. I think it allowed people to push life's reset button and reprioritize and make a shift. And that shift was really significant. They shifted from the money grab and they shifted to things that mattered: family, friends, and dare I say, the environment. I think we should remember that, and maybe we can take that and overlay that onto our situation. I just wanted to share that with you.
Anyone else on the floor? Okay, I don't have anything for executive session, do I, Gail?
Not that I can remember.
We put it on there just in case we needed it, but we don't. So at this point in time, we're going to audit and pay the bills. No further action will be taken by the board. Reminder that at this point in time, there will be a public hearing on the renewable energy systems laws on the 25th in the highway garage. And the next regular meeting of the town board will be October 9th. Thank you for coming tonight.
Sorry about your signs.
The one with the little hat.